Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the DDT Podcast for the YouTube channel of MadLauder53. Today we are talking about TKO, corporate greed, ESPN, Netflix, WWE, and more, as I try and break down everything that has been going on over the past year. Maybe not everything, but I wanted to kind of summarize my thoughts. I hear the term corporate greed, as you see in the title, thrown around a lot with this company or this set of companies. And I thought that because I've heard it so much amongst the fan base, I thought it was fitting or proper to include it as the title of the video. So, what is going on? Great question. By the way, as a disclaimer, I'm going to flip-flop between high intensity of white and black for the background or for the imagery. So in case you're watching at night and I am blinding you with the white light, I will try and switch to more of a black dominant color. But I will also switch to white during this video, just as a heads up. I know that some people probably watch my videos late at night, so I just wanted to give that a heads up. Alright, let's get into it. So, WWE has recently announced, along with TKO, that they have partnered with ESPN for pay-per-views. I've tried to read into it and try to understand it, and there are extra details. Timetables have kind of been pushed up because at first it was being talked about how it's all going to start in 2026, but it's going to happen. It start happening in September with a wrestling show that they have confirmed called WrestlePalooza. So that will be released on the ESPN, and you can pay $30 for it. If you're already subscribed to ESPN Plus, you don't need to worry about it, but if you aren't, well, you're going to have to get it if you want to watch the show. So, I'm going to get into all that because I hear a lot of back and forth, a lot of chit chatter. And originally, I actually didn't even want to do video because I feel like I'm just adding to the noise of everyone else already covering it. But I kind of reached a point where I was like, you know what? I will come out of semi-silence and make a video, a low-budget video as usual, but a video nonetheless. So, ESPN and WWE have come to an agreement that ESPN will host or air the pay-per-views that WWE puts out. Now, nothing has been confirmed, at least from what I have read. I'm probably going to use that phrase a lot during this video, just because I've tried to do a bunch of research in between, in preparation for this video. So I apologize if I've missed things. Feel free to put down in the comments if I have. And if you do find other information, please put links. Put links in the comments as well, because I do like having cited sources to help back that information up. I think it's great. I think it's helpful. A little bit like homework, crazy enough. But I digress. To go further into the point, the pay-per-view is going to be aired, but I haven't seen research or any information about whether or not those pay-per-views are going to be kept on ESPN or if they're going to be published to Peacock, which is the streaming service that WWE moved everything to after the WWE Network. So back in around 2014, they released an app called WWE Network. It was very forward and progressive for the time in terms of streaming services because Netflix was just starting to pick up steam and traction around that time and purging out and knocking out Blockbuster and kind of a more innovative spin on Redbox. For anybody that remembers those two, the services change. So streaming services were just on the rise, and WWE launches their own app, the WWE Network. Now, they didn't have a lot of content at first, and they had quite a bit of issues, but over time, it actually became a really cool library as they added more content and built it out with all their shows in between, as well as the weekly shows, the pay-per-views. And you know what, for a build price of $9.99, I remember there was critiques, even though I was a lot younger, of so you're gonna water all the content down to just $9.99. all this wrestling content. That's all it's worth to you per month. Which I think, is a fair argument for those that feel that way. Especially since cable television, they were charging pay-per-views anywhere between $30 all the way northwards of $60 to $70 on cable television at the time. I remember, I think WrestleMania was about $45-$50 that year, some crazy price. I think WrestleMania 31 was that price. Either way. So, I thought it was a good deal. Peacock eventually is where WWE moves to. Still around the same price. It's $8 for non-premium, and they've recently updated it. Peacock's service is now $11 a month, which, in all honesty, not too terrible of a deal, but still a little bit of an up hike from what I'm used to. I think where people are starting to have a huge problem with it is that now WWE is cutting up the pie that is called their content. They are taking a knife and they are surgically slicing off fractions of their content to distribute to other streaming services. And just for a case in point, at the start of this year, 2025, WWE cut off part of their shows to now have Netflix broadcast only their weekly show of Monday Night Raw. You can still tune into cable television to watch SmackDown or Peacock, as well as NXT, but now Netflix exclusively has Monday Night Raw. I believe you can also watch re-uploaded versions on Peacock, but that's neither here nor there. I can't remember the timetable of how long it takes for them to upload to Peacock. I can't remember if it's instantaneous or they wait a couple weeks to upload it. I can't remember. So feel free to put down in the comments if you do know the exact time that it takes to upload, and I couldn't find any information on it. Either way, so you have Monday Night Raw cut off, and then you now have put pay-per-views in the hands of ESPN with no clear details on how long it would take to upload to Peacock, and then it just adds more pricing. If you don't already have Netflix, if you don't already have ESPN, if you don't already have all these streaming services, then you're going to have to subscribe to them if you want to follow and maintain and keep yourself up to date, which means more money out of your pocket. And I've seen this argument so much that it is actually annoying to me. The people that make the argument, then just make more money. What do you think everyone in their lives are trying to do? We're trying to work to live, not live to work. People want to have comfortable lives enough to where they're not working to just make a living. They want to live comfortable lives. But I will tell you this, if you were living on hourly wages and you're not on salary, even if you are on salary, some things just aren't worth the investment, because guess what? You could be diverting your money elsewhere. There was something I learned in school years ago, and there was a professor who taught me that every single person in their everyday lives votes with their attention and their money towards a business. And he proceeded to explain how there was a certain threshold of tolerance and a certain amount of money that each person is willing to spend for a product, service, or idea that they enjoy. There is a threshold that everybody reaches, and it will ebb, it will grow, it will change, it will fluctuate during your lifetime as you make more or less money depending upon your financial situations. But I see this comment all the time, just make more money, just make more money, just spend more money. You're not a real fan if you don't spend money. Okay. The measurement of fandom in one's body cannot be quantified by the metric of how much money you spend on the product. I know somebody that is a diehard wrestling fan but has never bought merch, has never bought any of the belts, has never hung up a bunch of crap on their wall to say, hey, I'm a wrestling fan. They just are. They will text me, they will reach out to me, and they're an AEW fan. They love AEW, but they have no memorabilia. They don't want to spend the money because they're a tight budget individual, but they love it. They love the show. They love watching it. Does that make them any less of a fan than somebody who has 5 billion pieces of memorabilia about different wrestlers? I would think the one person decides to vote with their money a different way than the other. Because other people just have other priorities and other obligations in their lives. I got bills to pay. It's a lot of money, especially with the money that I'm going to talk about. It won't sound like a lot, but it will if you ever know what it feels like or are currently having a tight budget when it comes to financing and you aren't paying for all these streaming services. Because to me, a bunch of streaming services feels like a waste of money. It feels like a money sucker because I don't have the time in my life to sit down and constantly watch different content. I like having the specific content that I enjoy, easily accessible, for one price, under one roof, so that I can just pay for that and don't have to worry about anything else, any extra expenses, and it doesn't give me a migraine to try and calculate everything. Adulting is crazy. But to go further into it, we're talking about this right here. We're talking about corporate greed, the phrase that a lot of people have been using, and when it comes to WWE, I'm going to try and talk about each of these 4 points that I have seen the most, which is pricing practices, the confidence in consumer loyalty, overseas prioritization, and distribution of the product. I just talked about distribution of the product where they're cutting it up into segments. I will kind of retread that, so I do apologize if it sounds like I'm circulating the same point. This is almost turning into a PowerPoint slide, so I do apologize if you feel like I'm taking you back to class in high school or college. I told you it's low budget. Anyways, distribution of the product I've already kind of touched on, so I will circulate that when it comes to pricing practices. Confidence in consumer loyalty, though. So I'm kind of jumping around. I know I labeled it 1, 2, 3, 4. I probably should have put these as bullet points because I've already gone into 4, but I wanted to give background context. Confidence in consumer loyalty. So there was a quote from Nick Khan, and I'm going to put it up right here. And he's referring, when he says subs, he's obviously shorting it, and this was taken out of context. I couldn't find the full quote or the full interview with ESPN, but he was talking about moving streaming services for the pay-per-views from Peacock to ESPN. And he was talking about if people would follow. I do apologize. I had a bit of a notification come up. I'll put that on silent. So, and I quote, if you've already started reading it, I'll just read through it. Subs is in reference to subscribers. Quote, will the subs follow the product to whatever the new platform is? I think we've demonstrated to Peacock. Sorry, somebody had a typo and I was just copy and pasting. I'm working with it. I think we've demonstrated to Peacock our subs will follow. They certainly all followed from the WWE Network, and that expanded that subscribership extensively with Peacock. And there's obviously other product at Peacock to watch. He's talking about the library, which our fans who subscribe will primarily for us were able to sample. Same will be the case with ESPN. So I do apologize for the wording. It is the quote, except for to Peacock. That was a mistypo by the person who was posting it. And they did not edit it. And I just copied and pasted, so I wasn't going to proofread. Which probably should have. And, I mean, their verbiage as well. I don't know why you're putting a period with and, but I digress. I shouldn't be. I should just move on and continue with my points as you all are waiting for me to. So, what he is talking about is the fact that they have cut up segments of their organization's content and diverting it to other distributions or other organizations to showcase. Talking about Netflix and ESPN. So he's very adamant, or he feels strongly that when they shifted from the WWE Network app to Peacock, their subscribership followed. Well, yes, primarily because it was around the same price. It was almost identical in pricing, so you go from $9.99 to Peacock, that was $8 a month or $7.99. for several years. So obviously the fan base is going to be fine with that because for a cheaper price tag, they're going to get the same content. That is actually why a majority of people just flocked right over to Peacock. It was a very easy transition because everything was carried over. It took a little bit to carry everything over, but it did, and it's been great because you're just shifting from one app to another and you didn't lose any content. As a matter of fact, you gain content because you have access to the entire library of Peacock as well. So if anything, you get way more content for a lower price, which is honestly a great deal for a lot of people, regardless of those other additional amenities having anything to do with WWE. Either way, so he's very confident, or he feels confident, that the product will be carried over with ESPN, where the fan base will still subscribe. This, to me, is 50-50, because on one hand, you're hoping, I don't have the access to the data or the numbers, how many WWE fans are subscribed to Peacock and ESPN Plus. I don't have that data. That's also very tough to find, and I don't think that they would share that data. But you're almost banking on the fact that people are already paying for ESPN, because that way you're not going to lose as many fans. I do think with these price changes that it will cause less people to be willing to spend or vote with their money on this kind of service, because the price is about to jump up extremely for people. In my opinion, if you were trying to consume everything WWE related. So the library is on Peacock still, which is what he's talking about. The library, all the movies, the DVDs, the specials, all that. The in-between shows, the podcasts from WWE, all of it. All of that is still going to be on Peacock, but now ESPN is going to get the pay-per-views. Netflix is going to get the Monday Night Raw. So we're starting to segment the pie is what's happening. So there is a confidence in consumer loyalty. He is confident that fans will flock to the new service without any issue, any struggle. I don't think it's going to be as big as they think. They're obviously going to talk about numbers, because guess what? The price for ESPN Plus, the pay-per-views, the monthly subscription is significantly higher rate per month than Peacock. So if you hear WWE, I hear it all the time in their press conferences when they talk about financials, when they talk about money. This is the highest gate. This is the biggest revenue. Well, here's the thing. Are you overcharging the prices for tickets? Or are you overcharging prices and people are just willing to spend it? Or the same number of people are willing to spend it? Or is it actually a lower number of fans are willing to spend on it, but you're hiking prices so that you still get over the threshold? That's what I've always wanted to know as well. So, for example, they talked about how this past SummerSlam was the biggest gate that they've ever had in terms of people coming in. Well, yeah, no dip, Sherlock. You're doing the first ever 2-night event. I would expect you to have the biggest population pressed into a stadium for 2 nights versus 1. Like, are you kidding me? This is some sort of achievement that we're doing. They announced the attendance in Vegas this year, about what the attendance was, and they're like, oh, this is one of the biggest gates ever. Well, it's also one of the most highest priced WrestleManias ever. I believe it is top 3 most expensive WrestleManias to go to. No dip, Sherlock. When you have like 100 and I think it was like 100 over 120,000 people show up over the 2 nights. They weren't even sold out in terms of seats both nights, mind you. That's what's crazy to me. But you know, when you charge over 4 figures for ground seats, that's outrageous. They also dipped prices too for SummerSlam. I had a buddy who went, and he paid $300 for a ticket up in the nosebleeds, and he waited till 30 minutes before the show when they dropped the floor tickets from 4 figures to $80 30 minutes before the show. He bought a ticket, hopped down, got to sit and watch it, and I think in total he spent, I think he said it was $200 total for the show to sit on the floor, versus people who bought it well in advance for 4 figures. Just wanted to let you all know about that crazy pricing. But there's a confidence in consumer loyalty. There's a confidence that we're just going to flock. The WWE fan base will just float wherever they wish, follow the whims of the person distributing the product. And I feel like that confidence is almost borderline overconfidence in this case. Overseas prioritization. I actually don't have as much of a problem with this as other people may have, but I've seen this argument be put out a lot. There's a lot of people that are pissed off about them constantly doing overseas shows, London, UK, Paris, going over to Saudi. I know Saudi's a touchy subject for a lot of people. I actually would like to see them compete in Japan, for example. I think the Mexican, or going down to Mexico for AAA, those shows, the Worlds Collide ones, I actually thought that those are pretty cool. Do it often enough. I think like 1 or 2 shows a year, I think is always great, because then those countries get like a super show of enjoying WWE content. I actually think trying to go overseas, not prioritize it over your main audience, which is the United States, but still trying to satisfy the market, giving them a show or two, I think is always great. I think it's cool to expand the wrestling product to the consumer and give it more eyes on the product. I think that can be very healthy. It can give us more fans. It can make people enjoy it more. And I feel like wrestling is being talked about by and large more than it was a decade ago. I know that it hit a monumental peak in mainstream media during the Attitude Era, but I got people that have told me that they haven't watched wrestling in like 2 decades talking to me about how wrestling feels really good now. They're getting back into it, especially with the 2023-2024 storylines with Cody Rhodes. So I feel like it's very nice to have, and you're going to get people that just are making arguments for the sake of making arguments. So it's tough. But I think overseas prioritization, as long as it is within a fine line, is healthy. Like Clash in Paris, I think is cool. Going to the UK and doing several pay-per-views. I thought the tour doing it, the run-up to WrestleMania, was kind of weird, just because I think it's great they got the shows, but I also didn't appreciate hearing from some of my buddies over in the UK that they were hiking prices significantly on them than previous years just to go to Raw. I thought that was stupid. I also saw that people were making the excuse that it's because John Cena's there, so obviously it makes sense that a ticket is worth or is being priced $200 more from the previous year. No, it actually doesn't make any sense. I don't care if it's John Cena. I don't care if it's The Undertaker. Hiking it up $200 more to basically sit in the same seat is absolutely insane. That is a lot of money. $200 additional dollars? For minimum wage in the United States, that is almost about 15 to 16 hours worked, depending upon where you live, in what state, and what your minimum wage is. That is a lot of time. That might be a slight over-exaggeration on it being 15 to 16 hours, because most minimum wages, I think, at this point are anywhere between $11 or $10 to 15. No, at the 15, yeah. Okay, I'll shorten that. It's probably between 12 to 16 hours. But you could be using that on gas. You could be using that on groceries. You could be using... There's so many things that you try to factor in. I'm trying to preach from the idea of the consumer that has lower income. Anyways, overseas prioritization, I don't have a problem with it. Where I have a problem with it is talking about 2 WrestleManias a year. Or several nights for one show. We should do 2-night Survivor Series. We should do a 2-night Royal Rumble. I think the Royal Rumble's fine for what it is. You got 2 Royal Rumbles you're already getting, the women's and the men's, and then you can put in like 2 or 3 matches in between. I actually think it's fine, the format that it is. We've kind of gone away from the format of the pay-per-view structure that I like, but that is because there's 2 of them. Same with Survivor Series, same with Money in the Bank. It's a little bit tougher. However, I actually do want to talk about that point because I had a conversation with Panda. I had a conversation with other people that I did not include in the bullet points, but I want to talk about match cards. I actually do really want to talk about match cards, so I'm going to flip over to this screen real quick to stop killing everyone's eyes, and then I'll talk about payments and money, and I'll wrap this up. Match cards. There is a habit now of WWE who have done 19 pay-per-views. 19 this year. 19, by the way, over the course of 7 months. For some reason, almost all of them have been only 5 or 4 matches over the course of 3 hours, 4 hours at a time. And then they slam you out the rear end with ads. Ads. Which is crazy to me. It's insane how much the ad revenue has spiked for WWE to where they feel the need that they need to ram all of that down your throat, and then you get like 10 minutes of a wrestling match and then 15 more minutes of ads. That's a slight over-exaggeration with the ads, but it goes for a while. I just want to watch wrestling. I want to watch a pay-per-view of wrestling. There was, as much as I don't want to bring up Vince McMahon, I feel like if there is one of several things that I appreciated about him as a businessman, it is the fact that he kept the cards pretty straightforward for a long period of time. One pay-per-view a month to build towards, and then that pay-per-view maybe had 7 or 8 matches depending upon what it was. On the rare case, if he knew a match would run long, it would sometimes be 6 matches on a card or 7. I think anywhere between 8 to 6 is a healthy match card. I think 8, you're kind of pushing it. Everything kind of needs to be condensed a little bit. But I wouldn't go more than 8. I would keep it 8, 7, or 6. If you're crunching on time, like the Royal Rumble matches are always long, I always think a 5-match card is perfectly fine for the Royal Rumble. Do one of the Royal Rumble matches at the beginning. Do one at the end. The other 3 matches in between, just make sure they're good, fun matches that excite people, that get them out of their seats, that gives them something different to recharge them for the second Royal Rumble match. I always thought that number is healthy in between. When you start giving me only 4 match cards, I feel like you're kind of yanking my chain for the past month or this entire build-up, and it makes me think that you're not putting in the effort to actually tell stories to the pay-per-views. I always thought the build-up was to the pay-per-view. Like, you wanted to watch the pay-per-view. Tune in to watch. Tune in to watch. If you want to see him fight, tune in to watch. Is it repetitive? A little bit, but that's business. I'm okay with business as long as that's the TV show I'm watching. It's the same thing with the season finale of any TV show. Like, they're not going to give you everything done in the first episode. Same thing with a movie. You're not going to get the climax of the movie in the first 20 minutes. You got to build it up. Gotta add to the suspense, the drama. That's why we go to theater. That's why people went to theater for hundreds and hundreds of years, ever since the time of the Greeks and the Romans, but I digress. Alrighty, so on that note, even though it wasn't part of the bullet points, I do want to talk about payments. I am giving a warning before I switch it for everyone's eyes. You've been warned now, it's going back to a predominantly white background. So prices for 2026. Netflix. I did some research. If you want to watch Raw, the Netflix payments per month, at least currently, is $8 a month. For Peacock, which would be the library, it's going to be $11 a month. And for ESPN, it's going to be $30 per month. If you add all that together, you get $49 without tax or anything else per month. 49 times 12, you get $588 per year. For all 3 of these services. Again, I don't know if ESPN is going to be pumping that content back to Peacock in the library as soon as the show airs. I don't know. Same with Netflix. I can't remember how long it takes for Raw to potentially appear on Peacock. If it does at all anymore, I haven't exactly been watching Peacock for Raw. I typically have been watching it for NXT, and I've also been watching all the other documentaries and other stuff. But that's what I primarily stick with. I try to watch it on TV as it plays out with the weekly shows. Anyways, so if you don't have any of these before, or if you only had one, this is what it's going to look like per month. What does that look like in terms of overall expenses? Well, I'm so glad you asked, and I'm so glad that I'm here to potentially give you that information. This is the price difference. If you only had Peacock for 2025 or 2024 versus 2026, so instead of $132 spent a year, and I'm factoring the Peacock price hike into this, by the way, because before that it was $8 a month, which was only $96 a year. $96 versus $588 to have all three of those subscriptions. Now, if you already have those subscription services, obviously, I doubt that it bothers you that much. But if you haven't had it before, and people are making the argument to you of, oh, just make more money. Just make more money. That is a huge price gap, by the way. That is huge price gap. That is almost 4.5 times the amount that you already pay. If you don't have Netflix, if you weren't paying for Netflix and you weren't paying for ESPN. So that is 4.5 times the amount. That is insane. This is what I mean by the confidence. The confidence of the price hiking. We can get away with it because the people will just keep spending the money. So I know I've gone on for 30 minutes, but I want to talk about that element. I'm going back to a predominantly black gradient, by the way. I want to talk about that as the closing point. They are just the fans. When you vote with your money, when you spend on the product to an exorbitant degree, when you let this happen continuously, but yet you turn right around and complain to me about spending money, I don't know what to tell you. You're the one paying for it. You're the one that's okay with it, and then telling me that I need to make more money. But then I shouldn't say everyone. I don't want to lump everyone into that category. But some people will then turn right around and then complain about pricing later. Okay, well, you said that I needed to make more money. I'm just not going to spend for it. I got other ways of trying to keep up with the product. I can watch highlights on YouTube. Some people have already said that they're going to prioritize pirating. I don't blame you if it's for free in comparison. I'm not going to promote it, but I ain't going to blame you. Because with that price hike, goodness gracious, you know what anybody could do with $400 a year. You could put that on a down payment on your car. You could invest that in a retirement. You could put that into savings. You could spend that on $400 additional dollars. You could buy a PS4, almost a PS5 with that. You could use that on groceries. The justification or the willingness to just spend money is what's going to hurt everyone. And I, again, take the approach of it is what it is. If that's how you all are willing to spend it, if that's what you all are okay with doing, and I shouldn't say all. If those people that are preaching that this is great, this is a good thing, oh, I already have these subscriptions, you just need to make more money. Okay. Well, they'll keep price hiking on you. Because you're okay with it. You're perfectly okay with spending more money. And don't be shocked when they double the prices in a year's time. When they slam more celebrities in here. When they pump out more ads. Because they'll just keep making money to make up the difference if you start to choose not to spend money. If you want to make a change, or if people want to see a change, there needs to be a mass movement of people not voting with their money on the product. That is the only way that you are going to see a large change. Because ultimately, I guarantee you this is the case. WWE has moved away from their money coming primarily from the audience. They can look to other outlets. They can make $1 billion deal with Netflix. They can make $1 billion deal with ESPN. To make all their money. They can make a $4 billion deal with Saudi to have 3 WrestleManias with a buy 2, get 5 free. Because they can just shake hands. The only thing the fans will truly impact is the on-screen audience. But when they go to the overseas, those people are willing to pay because they've been starved dry of the product almost every year. When they come here, who cares? We could sell out only half the venue, but guess what? We'll still be making profit. So then the argument then becomes, then what does it matter? What can I do? Simple. Just stop buying their product. Stop buying into it. I know that sounds easier, but I mean like stop putting money into it. Stop feeding the system. Watch other means. If you want to pirate it, it's your choice. If you want to get all your highlights from their social media, go for it. If you want to find other outlets, I don't need, in my opinion, this is only me, I'm only talking for me. I don't need to spend $400 more to consume wrestling products. I don't. I really don't. It's not necessary. I can get all my content perfectly fine. And there will be plenty of other people that are saying, that's fine. Then go. Do it. And I'll say, yep, sounds good. Agree to disagree. There are people who have gotten too okay with it. And it hurts people that can't afford it. Or don't want to spend the pricing on it. So, it is what it is. I've already used that phrase, but I can only just shrug my shoulders. Welcome to the world that we live in. Welcome to what people are willing to just accept. That's the world. But again, vote wisely with your money, with your time, with your energy, and choose what you wish to consume. At the end of the day, a company's primary goal with any person, and I was taught this as well, is to make a customer. Your goal is to make a customer because you can sell a product, an idea, or service once, but you want them to become a customer. And what I mean by customer is somebody who's willing to come back again. That's what you want to create. Whether you're an employee, whether you're a businessman within the organizations, any company. Whether you're working a 9 to 5, whether you're in an office making a salary, whether it's minimum wage. The goal of any company that you're working in is to try and create a customer because they'll come back and they'll spend more money, which in theory would help everybody within the organization. Because now you got a regular. It's the same thing with AEW. It's the same thing with Ring of Honor, with all these other wrestling promotions. New Japan Pro Wrestling, Noah, AAA. Everybody wants to create a customer to come back and spend more. If you want to make a change, you got to get more people involved. So, ultimately, it's up to you and what you choose to do and whether this is something you're okay with. If you have your own thoughts on this video and you've stuck around for 40 minutes listening to MadLauder53 rant about the idea of customer greed, or not customer greed, corporate greed, then, in that case, feel free to comment down below. I love having these discussions. I love trying to spark healthy conversation. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Put down in the comments below what you think on this if you want, if you have additional points that you want to make to me, if you have counter arguments, if you have links, if you have info that maybe I missed or I don't have all the information for, put it in the comments. I love these discussions. I love trying to talk to everyone, and I will reply and I will see it. So, and I will try and interact with everyone. So feel free to talk. You can follow me again here or follow my artwork on Instagram, mad_army_productions. We could talk there. If you want to be on the DDT podcast, you can also reach out to me. We could possibly try and schedule a time. Either way, thank you all so much for watching and listening. You all are amazing. It's crazy being on my 10th year anniversary of YouTube, but glad I could finally make a video for all of you after 2 weeks of not making one since the anniversary. I'll try and get more out in the future. Again, I don't have a timetable, so if you want me to make a video too, reach out. Either way, thank you all so much. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel, of course, if you choose. But most importantly, and as always, suit up, Mad Army. You all are amazing. Thank you for 10 years again. And I will see you all next time on YouTube.